We've all got that one person that we look up to. Maybe the president, a religious figure, an actor, a rags to riches millionaire. The fact of the matter is that most of our adolescents is professional athletes that they look up to. And most of us at one point or another in our life have thought to ourselves, if I can only be more like her, if I can only be more like him, if I could be these people, things would be so great for me. But the fact of the matter is that we can't be these people. We have to be our own person. So this leaves our misguided youth to think that, if I could just emulate what she was doing, if I could just do exactly what he did, that maybe someday I could be a musician and I could have accomplished what they have accomplished. And this is what the problem is, because we've got professional athletes who are using illegal substances and cheating to get their 10 minutes of fame, and it's setting a really bad example for our youth. Now, do you remember when Mark McGwire set the single-season home run record, and that same year Sammy Sosa followed closely behind, breaking the record but not matching what Mark McGwire did? Or how about, do you remember the year that Barry Bonds broke that record that Mark McGwire set? Now, most of us probably remember, because millions and millions of us watch on these events, and they're events and people that we're going to remember for the rest of our lives, so we're going to carry with us throughout the rest of our lives. Now, for people we have to remember, we have to know who they are. And if you look at these three athletes, when they came into the league, and you compare them to where they're at now, you're going to see some huge differences. It's been talked about greatly. If you put pictures of Barry Bonds together of what he looks like now and what he looks like the year he came to the league, people are astounded and astonished by the changes, both in his physique, his power, and his performance. So, most people are left to believe that if this is happening in such a fashion in Major League, that there's got to be a steroid issue, because these players can't all be doing the same thing right, and they can't all be getting this good this quick. So there's got to be some X factor. And most people think that X factor is steroids. Now, children are starting to get the idea that, okay, if Barry Bonds and Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire, if they can't be good and they can't do the things that they're doing without using steroids, how am I going to do it? How am I going to be good? How am I going to get my chance to shine? Or how am I going to get my 10 minutes of fame? I'm not. So what I got to do to be better than this guy, I got to work my butt off. But that's not enough all the time. So when I work my butt off and it doesn't work, I got to turn to these steroids, because it worked for Mark McGwire. It worked for Sammy Sosa and Barry Bonds. So that's what I got to do. And before you know it, it's not a rare occasion to go to a high school gym, a locker room, and see kids popping pills and see kids injecting each other with these steroids, because that's what they need to do. That's what they know they need to do to get that extra edge over the competition. Now, with such a dramatic increase going on in the Major League Baseball, an increase in power, and a virtual change of the game, it's not the same game. It's not America's pastime anymore. It's a whole new pastime. It's a hitting game. It's a power game. It's a muscle game. Who's got it? And how are you going to get it? Now, with this kind of a change, it leaves people crying out for Major League to either prove it one way or another. Is there a steroid problem or is there not? Now, Major League Baseball steroid policy has been termed by many as a joke. And I have to say that I don't completely disagree with that. Look at it. Each player has to have a mandatory drug test once every season. And each player is subject to drug tests throughout the season, random drug tests. Does it mean they're going to get drug tested? Probably not. But randomly, yes. Now, if they get caught the first time, it's a 10-game suspension. The second time, 30 games. The third time, 60 games. The fourth time, it's a year. And the fifth time, their fate is at the discretion of the commissioner. So the commissioner can say, hey, you're good for baseball, so get your bat and get in the batter box because we need you. And many people think that these guys are getting off pretty easy, and they really are. So this policy is a joke. Hey guys, we have a policy. It doesn't really mean anything, but we have a policy, so you can't say we don't have it. So yeah. But Commissioner Bud Selig has actually proposed a new steroid policy to where the suspensions are a little bit longer, and there's the 3-strike rule. 3 strikes and you're out. Third time you get caught, you're banned from the game for life. Now, the problem with this is, it's great for Bud Selig to take that initiative, but he's wrong in the fact that he knows that the players' union is not going to accept it, and they never will, because we've heard of many players saying that they think that a greater majority, like over half of the Major League, is on steroids. So why would a union representing all these players subject themselves to that? Very unlikely to happen. And this is just a gateway for teams, because if they're sitting there trying to figure out their future and they really want to play baseball, then they're going to weigh those those rewards to those risks. And the rewards are very high because these steroids can get where they want to go. But the risks are really low because, for one, they're not going to get tested that much, and two, they've got like 5 free passes because, they can get caught. They can get caught as many times as they want. But they're good enough for the game, they're going to keep playing. And so, you tell me which one are you going to pick, Obviously, you're gonna take those rewards. You're gonna take the chance, and that's what we've been seeing. But what the adolescents don't realize, and what they're not mature enough to realize, is that there's serious adverse health effects that are just detrimental to your future. Now, there's so many things that can go wrong with taking steroids. An adolescent, a person's body is developing up until their late 20s. So when you go in and you take altering steroids and altering substances that change your body's developmental process, you're going to run into some problems. And down the line, steroids are known for heart problems, for tumors, for all kinds of things. There's so many things that can go wrong with steroids. But the big thing is messing up that developmental process because you're never going to finish developing as you would have if you just let the natural path take its toll on you. So that in itself is really, really damaging and detrimental to your health. Now, over the past few decades, we've seen a great increase in abuse of steroids by teens, and this directly correlates to what's going on in the major leagues. Don't worry, it's not too late for the major leagues to step in and fix this and do their part. But what they need to do is they need to set the example, and they need to show teens how to make it, but do it the right way. We could see a huge change in this guy's boot. We could see our youth changing the game back from this great pastime to this, power or muscle game, back to a pastime, back to what baseball was meant to be, and how the game was meant to be played, and the game we fell in love with as a country. But we got to make examples out of the cheaters. We can't continue to let them slip. And to make examples, obviously, there's going to have to be some sort of change in the steroid policy. And this may mean that we may possibly get into another strike, and players, they may strike for a while. The fact of the matter is that if we really truly love this game, and it's not a game about money, and it's a game about love of the game, then baseball should take that chance and should implement some sort of stringent policy that's going to keep these players fair and set a good example for our youth. Now, most of us have seen those cop shows. At the end, the cop puts the bad guy in the back of the car and says a corny line, "You do the crime, you do the time, son." So, you tell me, since when have professional athletes been above the law? Since when has anybody been above the law? Steroids are illegal in the United States, and they're banned in Major League Baseball. Now, think of it as let's compare it with another drug issue. If this were crack cocaine that the players were taking to make themselves better, I guarantee you, with the crack cocaine problem on the outside, with crack cocaine, period, Major League in the United States is going to step in and make sure this problem gets fixed effectively, quickly, and as least painfully as possible. So, what's the problem then? Why is there such a difference? The problem is that we don't see steroids as a serious and a real drug. And that is a very sad situation because steroids, if they're really not that serious, then why do we see these young adults with heart problems and with all kinds of issues with their bodies and having heart attacks in their 40s? Why are we seeing this if steroids aren't that bad for you? The problem is it all comes down to setting an example. When are we finally going to stand up and say something? When are we going to finally stand up as a country, as a people, as parents, as a baseball league, and say, this is not right, we need to do this thing the right way? We need to stand up and say something to Major League, and we need to not support what's going on, and we need to stand up and have a voice.